what is she doing? Like, literally, like, I thought she said she posted those 2 podcast episodes. So she didn't have to worry about a podcast episode when she was, like, being so studious, being, like, so academic, being so smart, sitting and doing all of her finals and final projects, right? I can't believe I'm about to, like, admit this to you guys because, like, I know. Like, I am a god amongst men. People look up to me. I'm, like, very much, like, peak everything. But I am human. And while I was studying and doing work and working on my communications final exam, all I could think about was, you know what? I have to reward myself because not only am I doing all of this, but I also had my annual physical today. I had the flu shot. I deserve a podcast episode. And you know what? I also thought my friends deserve a podcast episode. And here we are. I am doing a podcast episode not because of me, not for myself, not for I'm doing it for you guys. Yeah, huh? I thought my friends might need my friends, my people, my viewers, my fans might need a podcast to get them through the finals. And I'm going to be the podcast because first topic of business is I'm just going to explain what today's podcast episode is going to be. It's not going to be some big overarching story like the past, 3 podcasts. It's just going to be an amalgamation of like different topics just so we can, keep things switching around so it's not boring. I'm hopefully going to not have a lot of silent pauses. I'm going to hopefully remember that I have this bad boy. When I re-listen to my podcast episodes because I'm haha funny, I'm like, oh my god, I pause a lot. Like, why do I do that? So I'm gonna try to not do that as much. And though you can think, oh, Sam, so does that mean you're gonna script your No, this is a script. Are you kidding me? Like, the reason why I said, yeah, the podcast is going to be it, is so I didn't have to plan ahead past what's the topic for today's video. Like, that's, like, the amount of, like, forethought I want to, like, have before I click record, okay? I don't have any fancy schmancy, like, it's literally just iMovie on my MacBook Air, Like, it's like...
早上好，中国！现在我有冰淇淋，我很喜欢冰淇淋，但是速度与激情就比冰淇淋速度与激情就我最喜欢。
That was so much longer than I thought it was gonna be, but like you get what I mean. Like I just like this. Like today's gonna be like the first like random video. Like no big overarching talk. There's no plot. This episode is a Glee episode. Okay, like no one knows what's happening. You can lie and say that there was this big overarching like story, but there's not. It was just a bunch of little thingies tied together with string and some fun pop tunes that sometimes, gonna say it, better than the original. I'm gonna say it. I said it, and it's true because sometimes it is better than the original. I am a Glee apologist, and also I threw the first stone. Like I will defend Glee and its music to the day I die because Glee covers are so good, but he who cast the first stone, lives in a like glass house or whatever, I'm the first person who will start trashing on Glee. The second someone who's like, oh, it's so bad, I'm gonna be like, excuse you? You sit down and write a story right now. Do it. Sit down, write a story. Go ahead. Oh, it's harder than it looks. Then shut up. But if it's me talking about Glee, I'm gonna be like, oh, it sucks. Oh my god. Who the... I didn't mean to click that button, but whatever, it's fine. Like, I am not only Glee's #1 hater, but I'm also its #1 stan. I already talked about this, like, I feel like twice in one other podcast. So I feel like I should drop that topic right away. But I wanted to explain what today's podcast will be like. So I had this idea, and I recorded an episode, then I deleted the entire thing, so I cannot recover it at all. But it was pretty much me just being like, I wanted to start this new series on the podcast, so that's what this is, okay? So last podcast, I established that I wanted to create like a section of the podcast that is just me covering whatever pop culture topic that I felt like was like something I should talk about, something that was very topical for the week or whatever, and that was that. But I also wanted to start a thing where like every few podcasts, maybe every 4, every 5, whatever, just get like a filler episode into the podcast that just kind of jumps around different topics. So like we just get all like the bad ideas, not bad ideas, get all the not fully fledged out ideas out there, like things that aren't worthy of a whole podcast, like that type of stuff, all in like one episode that'll probably last, the same amount of time other episodes take, just to like, get them out of the way. So I don't like go later on down the line with us, obviously like the normal specific topics, and then me going, oh, I wish I was able to talk about this topic, but tragically it's not like a long enough thing to talk about. So this is what this is. And honestly, I'm actually kind of excited. And hi sisters. Guess what, girls? I'm gonna remember to use the little soundboard a bit more this time around. So if this podcast does not work, if this podcast does not work, this series is over. It's a one-time go. This is like the pilot, okay? This is the script. If y'all hate it, let me know, and then we'll go back to the pop culture section of the video of the podcast, and then like the full thing. But you know what? You gotta try new things, and the only way to try new things is by trying it. What the fuck? Okay, so that's what we're gonna do. Is that everybody good? Everybody good? Everybody good? Perfect. Now let's get started on the first topic. And I'm just going to go to my notes app on my phone. And the first topic that I see is Elon Musk buying Twitter. A bit old, but yeah, we'll talk about it. And I just think it's just like, a lot of time has passed since him buying Twitter. And I just feel like it's just a big joke. Everyone's like, oh, Twitter's collapsing. The check mark means nothing anymore, and yeah, everything, blah blah blah. I know it is crashing. It's like all this stuff. It's like it's not the platform that it used to be. All that stuff, but at like the same time, it's kind of like people act like they care more than they actually do. Like everyone knows that Elon Musk is a corrupt guy, that he's not as like tech savvy and smart as people say he is, or how he says he is. He's not this like savior that we're like looking for, bringing electronic cars, all that stuff. He's not the guy that the media or even his like just PR team in general just like pushed him out to be in the first place. We all know that, but people are still going to be buying Teslas. People are still going to be using Twitter. And that's just like the truth of the matter, and it sucks. It really does. I wish we weren't I wish we weren't the type of like society that would do that, but we are. And it sucks, but it's something that's just the truth. Like I still have Twitter on my iPad, my phone, and my computer, and my watch. I still use it. Not as actively as I used to, but I still scroll through, and I still use it, and other people still use it too. And despite what everyone thought a few weeks ago or whatever, it's still up. It hasn't crashed. I think it's so funny because I remember when everyone, like, with some people, like a good chunk of people, like, genuinely thought that Twitter was going down because everything was going down, like the strike, the people being fired, the everything. When everything went down, everyone was like genuinely thinking that Twitter was gonna go down in flames, like Vine did. Some Twitter accounts were like, okay, since Twitter is going down, I'm gonna say my real opinions. And I think it was like film updates, and then like another film based like Twitter account. They said all their like real opinions, and like some of them were like cuckoo crazy apparently or something like that. But another thing about that is that they like revealed that they were a couple, like that they were together, and I just think that's so weird. I don't know if they're like those like tweets are still up, and like I missed like when this happened, but like I was there for the aftermath, and it was kind of funny. It was like really funny. So, I mean, like, whatever, people got their content out of it. It's whatever. As long as those grubby little guys, like Elon Musk, get their hands off of YouTube, I'm good. Because YouTube is the love of my life. There's a reason why my podcast is not on Spotify. Besides the fact that I do not want to figure out how Spotify works, and I'm afraid of Apple Podcasts. Wait, that's actually a really good question to ask myself and others, right? How can I get this podcast on Spotify? How can I get my podcast on Apple Podcasts? Or even Amazon Podcasts? I feel like, because like the way that like Amazon Prime, you could like literally download any movie onto there, and then it's there. Like, but the way that works, I don't think it'd be that hard to get my podcast on Amazon Podcasts. But you know what? Let us do that. Actually, let me do the voice thing so I don't like leave a weird quiet moment on my podcast like all my old ones. So sorry about it. How to get my podcast on Spotify. There you go. Let's see. Spotify, you make podcasts, we make it easy for millions of people to find it and listen to them. Get your show on Spotify and see the data insights, blah, 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 blah. So, I guess I'm making a podcast. My podcast's available on Spotify. I guess I'm doing that. At least I'll try to. So maybe by the time the next episode, not this one, but the next episode, I'll be able to announce that my podcast is on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts or whatever you get your podcast. That sounds fun. Maybe, because I feel like a lot of people only do like video, like podcasts on YouTube if they have like visual aid. But I do not have visuals for this podcast. Maybe one day, but for now, I like keeping it this, like, low-key, like, midnight type shenanigans, So, for now, we're going to keep it from here, but maybe, never know, because I you know what? I know if I were to add it to a podcast, format, not format, platform, it'd be easier for people to like digest it instead of having to go on YouTube and then keep on clicking their phone or iPad or whatever to be on so they can listen to it. It'll make it easier to multitask. So I really messed up there by not making this a podcast on like Spotify or whatever before I did it on YouTube. So yeah, that was Elon Musk buying Twitter and also me putting my podcast on a different platform. I don't know. The next topic is Taylor Swift. I feel like that's how I keep bringing up that some of these topics that I have written down should be topics that have a guest on. Hopefully I can get a guest. This is me crossing my fingers. Y'all can't see it. Love you, audio listeners, because I only have audio listeners. There are a bunch of topics that I really need like a co-host or like a guest host to be here for, which is a shame because I don't have any, which is fine. It's fine. Maybe I can get over the embarrassment of asking someone to get on my podcast one day. But for now, it's not happening because me having a podcast is literally so embarrassing. Like, I hate bringing it up to people, and I'm an oversharer, so I'm going to bring it up to someone eventually. But I think it's so embarrassing because, like, what do you think when you think podcast? You think those ugly, misogynistic, stupid men with podcasts. You don't like, as much as you'd love to think about the haha funny podcast beforehand, you simply are not, because all the shitty men are making podcasts as well. So you know what? Who gave me a mic? No. Who gave them a mic? Because they gave podcasts a bad name. So yeah. Speaking of podcasts, okay, so breaking news. Not breaking, because it happened like yesterday, 2 days ago, a few days ago. Violating community guidelines, the podcast made by, like Brittany Broski and Sarah Shower. I was a huge Sarah Shower fan. Violating community guidelines. I was a huge fan of Sarah Shower before Brittany Broski. I knew her from the Vine days. Where is your? I want to cry, but I just did my makeup or whatever. It's like expensive mascara. I forgot how the Vine goes, but I was a huge fan. So I was, and I wasn't like an active listener to violating community guidelines, but a lot of people were really into it, and the people are like, people think there's like drama, and I don't know, and people are like really on the edge of their seats waiting for, for the Brittany Broski on, I think, Ethan Klein's podcast. I think she's going to be on the H3 podcast. So, people are waiting to see if anything happens from there. If anything happens from there, I'll probably do an update on the next podcast episode, since I already brought it up here. But I just wanted, y'all to be aware of that. Doubloon TikTok has tragically died off, like predicted in my last podcast. It does pop up occasionally, like once in a while on my feed. Like, I out of nowhere got 20,000 doubloons, and apparently no one on TikTok has apparently no one on TikTok has seen my podcast, because these little capitalist little licking like bootlicking like doublooners are like, I'm gonna take the legal amount of 200. Babe, we made this up. Like, the system of the doubloons, we made the doubloons up. So why are we applying real world economics to it when we could literally, like, the whole point of like making make believe and stuff like that is so you can like add your own little twist to it. So like, why not? I mean, I know I'm like, by saying this, I'm putting like a weirdly deeper meaning to doubloon talk, but like, I thought it would be like fun if like we did little like things that was a little bit different to our current day economics to see if it would actually work. But no, capitalist greed brought itself into doubloon talk, so I'm a little mad about that. I can give you all a preview of like what topics I could talk about with a guest host. So maybe, I don't know, if my friends were like, oh my god, those topics are so slay, I could totally be on your podcast, I'd be like, slay, I'll put you on the podcast. Like, it's not that hard. Like, just like, guys, like, if you want to be on the podcast, don't be shy. I don't bite, I do bite. Actually, am I gonna say this? Yeah, I'm gonna say this. I was a really weird kid growing. I was like very weird. Like I don't think I got out of the weird kid phase until like last year. Like I look back and yes, I know everyone's like if you don't look back and cringe, you never truly evolved. I do not care. I want to be the bitch who's never evolved cuz I was perfect forever. I can't do that cuz I was a freaking imbecile. Anyway, um yeah, I was a really violent kid too. I'm not gonna get into that. I think you can get like understand that I was a violent kid up until like a crazy age. But like I was just like I wasn't senselessly violent. I wasn't like violent to be violent. I was violent out of like impulse. Like it was like a weird like like I don't know. It was like a sensory thing. Like I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, I'm not a licensed physician or like licensed psychologist. I can't explain to you why I was such a delinquent as a kid. Um, but yeah, I don't. Oh my gosh, all of that from me just saying that I wanted to tell you guys the topics I could talk about. I could talk about Taylor Swift with someone else, 9/11 to 50 Shades of Grey pipeline, because no one on YouTube talks about that. I think that's crazy, because out of all of like the video essays that are on YouTube currently at this moment, and how well long form like pop culture deep dives are on YouTube, I can't believe no one talked about the 9/11 to 50 Shades of Grey time like pipeline. Like I get it that probably the whole 9/11 to 50 Shades of Grey pipeline, like that title may not get you money or sponsors, but like I feel like it's something that should be on YouTube. So maybe I can try to find I can call it the 50 Shades of Grey pipeline, or be like these two events connect in the weirdest ways, like not a pop culture, like a like a like clickbait title. Like I just feel like someone has to talk about it on YouTube. It has to happen. I can talk about the School of for Good and Evil and Enola Holmes too, or both of them, because I watched those three movies while I was doing like this big old like thing for my philosophy class, and I was like, oh, okay, I could talk about this movie with someone else. I thought it'd be a funny podcast topic to bring someone onto the podcast and do a a presidential rank attractiveness rating. So like it'd be a tier list of like the most attractive presidents, and my goal for the video was just to be like, you can say whatever you want to say about Obama, but like he was the sexiest president. Spoiler alert, I know, but like, am I lying? If you think I'm lying, wait for that episode. I could do one on the FNAF timeline, but there's so many videos about the FNAF timeline by now. But I also think that a lot of the, like I hate to say it, a lot of the FNAF theorists, I'm 21. Why do I care so much about the FNAF? My gosh. Anyway, I feel like the FNAF fan base on YouTube specifically is overrun by these, I hate to say it, white men. And I feel like a little bit of diversity, just a little bit of diversity could help. Because yes, I know it is at the end of the day a franchise created by a white man, then handed on to a group of other white men to make Security Breach. I get that, but give me an instance where diversifying has ever gone terribly for anything. Diversifying is amazing for crops, for society, for economics. Like, what do they tell you when you start investing? Diversify your investments. What is the first thing that well, what's like crop 101? You have to diversify your crops so the soil doesn't dry out or whatever, like when has that like I don't know, because even though it was like created by white people and white people, I feel like if you just get like one prominent person of color, that doesn't even have to be like female, not binary, like it doesn't have to be like just put one prominent person of color in the conversation and you're probably gonna find something that you're like, oh, I didn't see that. Because sometimes there are undertones you cannot see that you accidentally created or were there from the very beginning that you, because of your background, could not see. So, I'm not saying that like the FNAF community should be one white person, one white woman, one black person that's a man, one black person that's a woman, one Asian person that's a man, one Asian person that's a woman. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that like for a franchise that has been around since I was in middle school, and has had so many people's hearts, weirdly enough, had so many people's hearts, no matter how dumb at the end of the day the franchise is, it's hard to believe that throughout all these years, all the prominent YouTubers are white men. Just gonna say it. Just gonna put it out there, and I'm gonna put it down, because I know that race is for some reason, even though we have been talking about it for years, though it has been a thing that people have been talking about, have been debating over, have been taking away people's rights as human beings over for centuries, like millennia. Even though all of that, it's a touchy subject, so I'm just going to leave it from there, okay? And I can't believe that that the way I bring it up is through talking about FNAF, but you know what? That's just the way it happened, okay? So one day I can talk about the FNAF timeline, some theories that I thought of that I don't think anyone else has thought of, but that'll be with a guest host, hopefully, maybe. I don't know. I don't think I said it, but I can talk about my love for Peter Millark. I have a slideshow for that, and I feel like that slideshow presentation of me loving Peter Millark and why everyone else should love Peter Millark, that can be like maybe like my first ever face reveal, even though my face is all over the internet because I don't hide it. I just don't want to record my face for a podcast or as of right now, so that could be a thing. I can talk about, that's something I can talk about right now. Kate Connor was forced to come out I think it's like a few months ago by now. And I just want to talk about that because it really encompasses a bunch of other things that I really, really want to talk about. And that is the speculation on sexuality. I thought we got past this. I thought that whole like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm going to do this. But like this whole like the woke revolution that happened in like mid 2010s, I thought that really like fixed something like that. Like I thought it really like addressed that, but apparently it didn't. And for those of you who do not know, one of the stars of a Heartstopper, the British Netflix show, he stars in it alongside Joe Locke, who just got signed for not Multiverse of Madness, for Agatha Coven of Chaos. Kate Connor was forced to come out by these like faux fans of the show, fans of him, that like emphasis on the faux as in FAUX. Like these faux fans who are like, queer baiting. I'm just going to give a quick education on the term queer baiting because like many words on the internet, it gets diluted and gets used incorrectly to the point where people think that it means one thing when it actually is another. So there are a bunch of terms that a lot of people use for actual people, actual situations that are meant to be, because people lack media literacy for some ungodly, like unknown reason. People lack media literacy nowadays. For those of you who don't know, or for those of you who have someone in their life like this, let me explain something. Some words like the female gaze, male gaze, bisexual colors, queer coding, those are all terminology made for film analysis, for media analysis. And people have seen the word with whatever they thought beforehand. They like constructed their own definition without looking it up, and then ran with it, and then people saw that and then ran with it, and then so on and so forth, to where it to where it's a word or a term or a saying that no longer represents what it set out to do. Like Manic Pixie Dream Girl, like I said, female gaze, male gaze, whatever, which also could be a topic I could talk about one day. Media literacy can be a topic I can talk about for like an entire podcast, with or without another person. But honestly, yeah, it's something that people don't really understand, but I'm not going to get into it, so I can use it for a podcast topic one day. But the term queer baiting, I'm just going to give you a little sneak peek, okay? I'm very media literate, hopefully. So the term queer baiting really only actually refers, like it's supposed to refer to the use of queer subtext to push forth a queer identity to a non-queer piece of media. So it could be used in multiple different ways. One way is for the show Merlin. For those of you who aren't aware, it's kind of like Arthur in the round, like King Arthur in the Round Table, like Merlin the wizard or whatever. Like it's supposed to be like CW retelling. I don't know if it was on CW, but it was supposed to be like a CW-esque retelling. And there was the fans saw a lot of queer subtext between Merlin and Arthur. And I don't know if it was like, the writers were like, yeah, they were supposed to be a couple, but the network wasn't okay for that, or like something. But they were canonically, technically straight, but a huge chunk of the viewers saw it as queer. There's like that where, you know, at least to me, the intent is a bit skewed. Like you don't know if it was supposed to be like that, or it was intentional. At least to me, like I said, I wasn't a huge Merlin fan. I tried to get into Merlin, but the second I hear that the show was canceled and a lot of the fans were upset that it was canceled, and I wasn't a part of that initial group of people, I'm not going to start it because I don't want to join the madness. So that's one form of queer coding. Another form of queer coding is the intentional. They want to grab queer audiences, young women, because they have a draw to these queer relationships, queer identities on screen. They know that they would be a loyal fan base. They give you enough, like they dangle the carrot in front of your face, and they dangle it there long enough for you to stay, for you to theorize this queer realness instead of subtext. So you can like conceptualize this queerness from the subtext without them actually giving you queer representation. And it's malicious. You may think, but like they're probably just doing this because the network, the evil network won't let them do it. But to a certain degree, even if it's the network making them do it, it is cruel, and it is satisfying a need that has not been met. It's like downing soup. No, not soup. That's like a bad example. It's like downing soda when you are thirsty. You are satisfying the need by putting a liquid down your throat and you're drinking something, but the need is water because water is what's going to actually supplement you. That is what queer baiting is at its core. It is giving you the mask of hope, of representation, of like actually help, like getting you what you wanted without actually giving it to you. Another example is a lot of Supernatural fans are going to hate this, especially the younger ones. Supernatural, it is queer baiting. It is queer baiting. It is queer baiting. And you could be like, but Cass got to confess that he loved Dean at the end of the... Yes, exactly that. Even if it is revealed that the queer subtext was what it is, queer subtext to lead to something actually queer, like, even when it's like that, if it's at the very, very end, like the very, very end, that is queer baiting. It is meant to deceive. And it is a network media production faultyhood, not a human faulthood. I know that's probably not a word, but I made it a word. Shakespeare is allowed to make up words. I'm allowed to make up words too. Anyway, that's what it is. At the end of the day, it is a word used to critique media. Queer baiting is malicious. But at the end of the day, like I said, it is a production capitalist creation. Not to be used and applied to actual people. Personalities, maybe. And the difference is the personality that they bring forth to the fans, PR, like think about the hyper managed pop star, how every portion of their life in front of people is completely fabricated. That could be that could lead to queer baiting. But because of how blurry that line is, some people, especially people who are not completely media literate, especially in the term, won't know where the line starts. And that's where we are for Kit Connor. Kit Connor plays a bisexual teen. That's not a spoiler. Bisexual teen Nick Nelson in Heartstopper. A really well-renowned? Is that the word? Well-renowned. No, I mean well-received Netflix series. Got a second season. Super excited. Like, it's a very well-loved series. The graphic novel is well-loved. Like, it's the light-hearted type of story that people have been craving. It is a love story devoid of the sadness that usually comes with coming-of-age queer love stories, especially because it's the one that comes out the most, and not because they really need more or anything like that, even though, more representation, there's nothing wrong with that. It is something that's really devoid in queer media right now. Like a nice, lighthearted, non-angsty story. Queer people, gay men, lesbians, like everyone needs more lighthearted things. Because part of media is to be a escape. And if a queer person's escape is something that hits a little too close to home to them, it's gonna be hard. So that was Heartstopper. And one of the big things for Heartstopper was that you should be able to, you are entitled to coming out on your own terms. And though someone can, because they are cruel, take that right away from you, that does not mean it is all right. So, when it came out that Kit Connor was forced to come out as bisexual, even though he did not want to label himself just yet, that is despicable. That is disgusting. Hello? Sorry, my microphone detached. It is despicable. It is disgusting to make someone come out like that. It truly is. And the reason why he was forced to come out is because, if you remember my big blurb about queer coding, people were accusing Kit Connor of queer coding, for queer baiting, because he was playing a bisexual character, and people assumed that he was not bisexual himself or queer himself. And now that I said queer coding, I fear that I interchanged queer coding and queer baiting a lot. Let me just go back to that original topic. I know I said I was going to talk about the whole Kit Connor thing, but it is subtext that you really need to know. So there is a difference between queer coding and queer baiting, even though I may or may not use it interchangeably to mean the same thing, but there are differences in the same way that there's a difference between sex and gender, though people will oftentimes use it interchangeably. There is a difference. And queer coding is not necessarily malicious. Queer baiting is necessarily malicious. Queer coding can be a way for artists to bring forth a queer story without it being overtly queer, so it can pass some type of modesty outline, whatever. Queer baiting is knowingly using queer subtext, queer coding, to gather queer support, garner their money, their viewership, without actually giving the representation that they are craving. One is Easter eggs, the other is, again, dangling a carrot in front of your eyes. And having that in mind, accusing an 18-year-old kid, and yes, I know, I have friends who are 18, my cousin's freshly 19, I see him them, I said he, referring to a friend, but, I see them, all of my friends who are, 18, 19, I see them as, young adults, I do, but they are kids. They are still kids in my eyes, and in the grand scheme of things, with the amount of adults out there, they are kids. And just thinking about forcing a kid that a lot of people in society will just be like, you're not old enough to make this decision. Those same people are the people who are making him come out because they had this hunch that he was queer baiting. That's insane. Queer baiting has become a thing that, as much as it is a true problem, it is a fight that has folded onto itself, like a lot of other fights. So many people say things without full knowledge of what they are talking about, what are they fighting for, that they ruin the fight for everybody. like Becky Tabernac. No, I don't think it's her name. The girl who wrote the lady who wrote Simon versus the Homo sapien agenda. Becky on the Offbeat. She's a woman who wrote the story for Love, Simon. She was forced to come out as bisexual, and she did not know she was bisexual until a good year after all the drama. And even then, that is a terrible way to have to figure out yourself. She was married. I think she had kids. She's still married. She still has kids. And she's bisexual. Good for her. But the way that she found out is disgusting. And that was a grown woman. When you are, like, everyone talks about how being young and on social media is such a terrible thing. But then we'll turn around and force an 18-year-old kid to come out as bisexual even though they weren't ready to label themselves publicly. That is, it's like you miss the whole point of the story by forcing him to, like, did you even, like, what, are you even a fan of the show? Are you even a fan of him? Or did you just wanted to terrorize an 18-year-old kid on the internet? Oh, but he's an actor, he's a celebrity, he'll be fine. I feel like people seem to forget that I hate millionaires and billionaires as much as everybody else. But, like, they're still people. And, like, I think, like, Kanye and Robin Williams, not to put them in the same boat because they are not in the same boat, I think they're proof enough that not, like, all the money and resources in the world is not enough to make you a happy person. Not enough to make you okay when the world gives you shit. Therapy is only as effective as the patient receiving it. You know, like, the Band-Aid is only as effective as the wound that it is healing. And, you know, like, not enough positive enforcement will ever cover up how terrible the bad things are. Everyone talks about how the one bad comment will overrun all the positive. And being forced to come out at such a young age, being forced to come out at any age is a lot. And I just feel so terrible for Kid Connor. I really do. Like, no one should be forced to come out. And I thought the 2010 to 2015, when everyone was like, your story is your story. You should come out when you feel safe to come out. Only come out when it's safe for you, so you don't, you're not left on the street with no one to help you. It is your story. It is your thing. Never feel forced to come out. Then make an 18-year-old come out. And then that brings me to other celebrities who are accused of queer baiting. Harry Styles, Taylor Swift. Those are the only two that come up in my head because I am personally a fan of them. You can have whatever thoughts you have on that, but I am a fan of them. I'm not going to feel sorry for that. And a lot of them, both of them, and a bunch of other celebrities or people who are accused of queer coding, a lot of them, I'll just specify to them, they are accused of queer coding despite certain things. And obviously every criticism towards anyone, especially celebrities, it's valid, but I feel like context is very important, even in critique. Like, you can acknowledge that you can acknowledge that Ye is a Nazi and a terrible person, and still to a certain degree feel terrible that he is so ill that he refuses to take his meds, go to therapy, receive the help that he so desperately needs. And you can let that minor bit of sympathy not overpower how terrible of a person and how much hate he is bringing into the world. You know, the two things can exist at the same time. And you can have your criticisms in Harry Styles using a overt queerness in his style, in his way of dress, in his way of acting, while also acknowledging that he does say that he identifies as unlabeled, and you can also acknowledge that, you know, that outfits are not gendered necessarily. Like, they are obviously gendered, but clothes themselves do not have gender. You can acknowledge both things at the same time, and I feel like obviously if you're out here to hate and just to hate, go ahead. Hate all you want, as long as you're not like an asshole to people who just want to defend him. And that goes, you know, double-edged sword. You're allowed to love and defend your love, as long as the person who's hating, you're like wishing them terrible things just because they hate and you love, you know? But like, there's a line, you know? Like, yes, obviously Harry Styles is much more wealthy and much older than Kit Connor. Though that is true. That is true. We do not want another Kit Connor situation on our hands. We do not want another celebrity. Let me get another person in such a vulnerable public space to have to come out. And of course, you can have your speculations, your private speculations, but keep it at that. At private. Oh, but I'm a fan. Fans should be able to theorize and yeah, bitch, about like their music or their music videos or films that they're in, not their actual personal lives. Oh, but they're a celebrity. That's what they're signing up for. No, they're signing up to be acknowledged for their art. Only recently did the big boom of celebrity personalities come about. There are celebrities you know nothing about their lives for. But the second they cross a certain threshold, a certain demographic, then it's okay for their privacies to be destroyed? Like, that makes no sense. So I just don't want, and I just like, from the very beginning, because that's one of the reasons why I hate Perez Hilton. Didn't he out Lance Bass or something like that? Or like other people? Like, I hate celebrity outings. It makes me feel icky. And I just do not want, and I'll say it because I have a bias, and everybody has biases. I'll say it because I am biased. I do not want to watch Harry Styles be forced to be like, fuck it, I'll say it, I'm bisexual, I'm pansexual, I'm something. I don't want to watch him have to go through that, because yes, oh my god, parasocial, you don't actually know. I don't care. If I'm visually seeing someone be affected by the fact that they were forced to come out, something that we preach to everyone else, that it is their story, that they can take their time, forcing someone who's already said I'm like unlabeled, like forcing them to be like, he's just using his queerness, he's just using queerness, blah blah blah. Like, you can see that you shouldn't be forcing this guy to either come out as straight or come out as some form of queer, or he's queer baiting, not just, I don't know, not ready to publicly say something so private, because that is what it is at the end of the day. Your sexuality is private to you at the end of the day. You can acknowledge that that is wrong and that you shouldn't do this and that. But at the same time, you can also be like, Harry Styles is queer for straight people, and I forgot who the other person is. Other person is straight for gay people, or gay for gay people. You can acknowledge those, like the different strains of marketing, while still acknowledging that some things that you are doing is effed up and it's something that you should stop. And then that leads me into Gaylor. I am not a Gaylor. I am a Taylor Swift fan. I believe that there is some queer subtext. You can see some queer subtext in some of her songs. But she has said that she is straight. She has openly expressed her attraction to men. She is notoriously famous for her ex-boyfriends, and I don't think that's okay. I'm not saying that I'm for the marketization of her relationships or ex-relationships. I'm not saying that I'm for that, but I'm saying that as a woman who has outwardly said that she is straight, I think we should take her word for it. You can speculate about maybe past relationships. You can be like, oh, ha ha ha, her relationship with Carly Kloss and Haley Kiyoko and Diana Agron. You can say that those were a little fishy, that those were a little fruity. You can say that while still acknowledging that she is currently in a passionate, more than 4-year relationship with her now boyfriend, maybe fiance. I'm not going to speculate. I listened to Lavender Haze. I know. I'm not going to speculate. And still acknowledge that she is in a happy, committed relationship with a man. Okay? And you can see queer subtext in her stories. And like I said, still acknowledge that she is a straight, a straight. If she identifies as straight, she is straight. If a person who is a lesbian at first believes that she is, I don't know, a queer man, at that moment in time, though deep down they may not be, if they are saying that they are a queer man, they are a queer man. And then if they come out later that they are a lesbian, then they are a lesbian. They are now who they are, both on the inside, on the outside. If we are going to label, look at the freaking labels. Like, I know people are like, oh, why do we have to label things? Labeling is so othering. It's part of human nature. Labels are going to happen no matter what. It is how we view those labels that has to change. It's going to, labels are always going to happen. Labels are like, everyone's like, oh, labeling people as is terrible, but then they won't bat an eye when someone's labeled as a sister, brother, friend, foe. Like, labeling will always be around. It's just the way that you have to see it, and you have to acknowledge, you can acknowledge that some things that Taylor Swift does can be seen as very fruity because you personally, or through friend interactions, you see some parallels between your queer existence and her existence, period, like her public existence, and still acknowledge that she has said that she is straight, and so therefore you should acknowledge her as straight. These two things can be true, and these two things should be acknowledged as such. Truth and speculation. You cannot, it's not like you're like what I do on TikTok and you're saying, I know how Glee would write this as an episode, because that is media. You can say all you want. I know how this is how Ryan Murphy would write this episode of Glee, and be right and wrong, and be able to be like, yeah, haha, it was just me joking along, because that is content, not involving real people. It is media. But the second you are involving yourself in real people's lives, the words that you use are important. It is the same in journalism. It is the same in politics. Your wording matters. And you're like, oh, but I just want to just like have fun. I just want to like yeah, you can do that. But once you are getting a considerable amount of followings, people listening to you, you have to watch what you are saying, or you are vulnerable to libel, you are vulnerable to a lot of things, and especially being part of the problem. And I know humans can be evil. I just want to say, give, benefit of the doubt, you got to watch what you are saying. Cuz at the end of the day, if I see one more celebrity with a fairly big fan base of people who look up to them, see them as role models, see themselves in them, have to come out because speculation has gotten so high that they can no longer live without being accused of faking something that they just wanted to hide because it was their own story to tell. I'm going to fight. I'm gonna fight. And honestly, I feel like that was like a majority of this podcast. But I think it was something worthy of talking about. And honestly, I can't wait to talk about I can't wait to do the media literacy podcast, because that's something that really matters to me. I'm a film major. I feel like I should add that in. I'm getting my English associate's degree, and I'm getting a film bachelor's, and I'm getting hopefully a master's in screenwriting. Like this is like my specialty, and I feel like a part of that is like overall media literacy. I hate as a person who is strongly tied to people who are queer. As a person, okay, I didn't know why I whispered that. I'll just say it out loud just in case. As a person who is strongly tied to the queer community, with queer family members, queer friends, I feel like it just like really affects me, even when I know parasocial relationships. Can we talk about the intricacies of parasocial relationships before this podcast ends? It'll be my last topic of the very first random topics, like the very first random podcast episode. I would like to talk about, that's my like very last topic of the day, okay? It'll be the topic of what is called, I literally said it a second ago. Why did I forget what I said? Oh my god, I'm an idiot. I was talking about media literacy, and then I was talking about queer coding, and then I was talking about having queer family members and friends, and all that jazz. Give me a second. Oh my god. Parasocial relationships. That is the very last topic of today's podcast. Okay, guys? So, parasocial relationships. There is some intricacies to parasocial relationships that a lot of people do not want to talk about because they're either so skewed in the view as a content creator, as a celebrity, and they are either so skewed as the person who is being parasocial, and then they are the outlooker, which means that they have never experienced the need to be in a parasocial relationship. They've never been someone who was on the receiving end of one. As a person who has witnessed it, has been in one, and, obviously as a content creator myself, I will one day have a parasocial relationship, maybe, hopefully. I don't know. I kind of want one. I don't know. No, it's fine. It's okay. No. As a person who has witnessed at least two sides of it, which is watching it happen, watching content creators talk about parasocial relationships, and then being in them myself, I feel like, not that I'm the most unbiased, but I feel like I have a more well-rounded view on parasocial relationships than other people, and I will be talking about that obviously right now. So a parasocial relationship is categorized as a relationship between two people where the person who is really involved seemingly knows a lot about the person's public face, public life, but the person that they know about knows nothing about them. Practically doesn't even know that they exist. That is like the baseline for dummies explanation of what a parasocial relationship is. And some people will say that they're all good, and other people will say that they're all bad. And there are obviously some people who will say that there's like a good in between. I am a good in between person. Parasocial relationships can have their good, can have their bad. And there are different levels to it. So we're going to start with the bad, obviously. So a bad with a parasocial relationship is stalkers. They will think that they have this immense connection with that person. The person will not know that they exist, but the other person will be like, I'll call them Jerry. Jerry will be like, I'm in love with this person. I literally love her so much. She's the reason why I live. I would kiss the ground that she walks on. And then we're going to call her Sheila. Sheila's like, who the fuck are you? How did you get in my house? How did you know my password? Why do you have my dog? What is happening? I have to call the police. And Jerry's going to be like, babe, I gave you $5 like yesterday. I don't owe you $5. Like, what do you mean? You said my name. You said, thanks, dog master, 5,000 for the 5. And she's like, and Sheila's like, what do you mean? I don't remember. There was like 50 other donos yesterday. Like, what? Get out of my house. And people can get hurt. And another form of negative parasocial relationships is people maybe say you were in this relationship, it was very publicized, and then you guys break up, and then people are literally shitting, pissing, crying, throwing up over the fact that you guys broke up, even though they never really saw anything but whatever you posted on the internet. And because they have witnessed your relationship from the outside, and they probably have already decided who they were quote unquote getting in who they were going with for during the custody battle, they're gonna start hating on you, calling you a piece of shit, blah 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 blah, making you feel probably already worse than you probably were already feeling, because it is a breakup, and breakups take a toll on people. You're left to deal with both your pre-existing heartbreak, but then with a bunch of people on the internet who don't even know you, don't even know your relationship, assuming that you are the bad guy, because the person in the other relationship is either not saying anything, being rather quiet, or is expressing their emotions the way that they are experiencing them. It is the Joshua Bassett, Sabrina Carpenter, Olivia Rodrigo effect. It is the attack, love, attack, switch turns, attack, switch, it is that vicious cycle. Then there is the absolute good, where it's maybe I'll continue with the Jerry. The Sheila who used to be very closed off, didn't have a lot of support, suddenly having this outpour of all these Jerrys who are like, I love you, I just want the best for you. Are you drinking water? Are you eating? Don't forget to run your top of the hour outbreak. Don't forget to do this and that. Finally feeling like they have a community around them that is supporting them in a way that they felt like they were lacking. This is the good. It's the people who are like, you are so good at this one thing. I'm gonna I'm going to subscribe and dono and this and that to make sure that you are able to continue doing this content that I adore and love. And Sheila's the, oh my god, thank you person whose whose username I'm not going to say because I forgot what I said earlier. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate my community. Like, that is the good. And then there is the both sides person who can see the both sides and find a happy medium, that can see that you can have a positive community with having a healthy balance. You can be like, hi, I'm Sheila. Oh my god, thank you for the 5 bits, Jerry. That's very funny. Thank you for reminding me to drink water. I forgot to drink water. And then Jerry can be like, ha, look at that. My favorite content creator noticed me. They know I exist. That's so cool. I can brag to my friends who also watch Sheila. That's me closing the book. That's it. That's all you gotta do. End of story. You don't gotta stalk her. You don't gotta thank your family. You don't gotta know. You don't gotta feel like you know everything about her. You don't gotta feel like you wanna go see her at the grocery store that she frequents every other week. Like, that's it. Close the book. Done. And then through that you can also acknowledge that some people will get to that, but then you also have to hopefully balance that with a community that will protect that content creator, that celebrity, and be like, hey, we noticed some weird behavior. You can go to their team, go to a mod or whatever, depending on what type of platform they have. Like, hey, this person's been kind of weird. Just keep an eye out. Maybe ban them. Ban any accounts that they might have created, and warn the creator or the celebrity just to keep an eye out for them. There has to be a balance, and though obviously it's human nature, balance is going to be hard to find. You can see that there is some good and bad from parasocial relationships. And one of the goods is that not only sometimes can Sheila get a community, Jerry can finally probably see themselves in Sheila. I know a lot of content creators save a lot of people's lives. Like Jenna Marbles saved my life. Oh my god, I love Jenna Marbles so much because I kind of saw myself in her, and I kind of just liked her content, and I was so sad to see her go, but all that stuff, blah blah blah. But all of that stuff can exist at the same time as all the bad stuff. And I don't think parasocial relationships are also kind of, hate to say it, mandatory in the content media type of realm of working. It is mandatory because the thing with entertainment is that it is not necessarily a good. It's not like you're going to the doctor, dentist, grocery store, clothing store. It is not. It is purely entertainment. And you can argue that but movie stars, you don't gotta know the movie stars. I mean, yeah, you're right, but there's a certain parasocial nature to it. What is the one thing that you are looking for when you go to a movie theater? Immersion. You want to be immersed in the story. If you're not immersed in the story, it wasn't a good story from the beginning because they didn't know how to tell the story. Immersion is a form of parasocial relationships, and you could disagree with me or not. Someone probably more educated than I am will say that is kind of wrong, and I'll white flag. Okay, but I feel like there's a level of parasocialness to immersion because as a Jerry watching the movie with Sheila in it, Jerry would be like, wow, I'm in the world. I know everything that's going on with them. But Sheila is a character on the screen. that does not know you exist and doesn't actually know you as a person. But, Jerry, watching the character, is going to be like, I know that person. That is a level of parasocialness. You are parasocially attached to a character. Maybe not the actor, but to the character. And that is enough, to me at least, to be considered as a parasocial relationship. And same goes with content creation. The only reason why people will put more money into a movie, put more money into a content creator, put more money into a Kickstarter is because they feel as if it is something worth investing into. It is an entertainment worth investing into. And majority of the time, especially with content creation, part of the content is the personality. It is the act that the content creator is putting forth. And if you, I hate to say it, if you are a content creator and you do not have at least a few people with a somewhat parasocial relationship to you, that they want to give you these subs, these donos, these text to speech messages, you are not going to succeed, at least as a full-time content creator, where you only have to do that. It is something that you have to realize. You can down on it all you want, but to a certain degree, you have to acknowledge that those parasocial relationships, as long as they aren't going too far, are the only reason why you're able to have this job, have this luxury. And I guess that's it. I realize now that I really like talking about this media analysis things. So maybe I'll maybe the next podcast will be me discussing media literacy, specifically media literacy specified towards film and stuff, because that was really fun for me. So, hi sisters. It's time to end the podcast. My name is Samantha Kaye. I forgot to introduce my co-host, Samantha Kaye. Yeah, girl, that was a little mean. Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, forget you were here, girl. You just were so quiet this entire podcast. Yeah, I mean, you couldn't stop talking. So when was I... you don't have to be mean, okay? So, you know what? Stop talking, okay? We're just gonna redo it, okay? Hi, my name is Samantha Kaye, and my co-host Samantha Kaye. Hey, girl. Oh my God, girl. I hope you liked today's podcast. I know I think I did. Deuces.